Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronald Presner. I'm chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Mount Pleasant. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. Hope 25 is better than 24. Before we start, I want to first introduce the members of our board. To my right is Mr. Nicholas DeChico. To my left is Kathy Niclario. She's the Secretary of Zoning and Planning. To her left is Mr. Herb Dorr, and to the far left is Mr. George Lapazos. One person is off tonight, Adrian Novak, so we're going to be 4 people. One of the things I want to point out is if on an application 2 of the board members decide to vote against an application, there's no such thing as a tie. The votes will be considered denied. How we run the meeting, it's quite simple. You'll come forward, I will swear you in, and for the public record, I will read your application. Once that's done, you'll explain why you need the variance for your particular application. I may ask some questions. I'll then bring it to ask the members of the board if they have any specific questions for you. And when that's complete, I'll ask if anyone present is either for or against your application. Once that's completed, the board will make a determination as to whether to approve or deny your application. In some cases, if it's a complicated application, we may adjourn it for another meeting, for a future meeting, but there's no penalties as far as filings. Regarding filings of after tonight, if you get an approval, don't run out and start doing your construction work. Wait until you get the resolution from the building department. It's very important. And one of the things you have to do is to include the zoning resolution with your building plans when you submit them in to the board to get your building permits. So with that understood, we have one continuing application. That's Jonathan Villani. Raise your right hand, please. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Absolutely.
All right. You are Jonathan Villani. Your office is where?
10 County Center Road, White Plains, New York, 10607.
You're the applicant for Wilson Liu. The owner of the premise is located at 68 Allison Lane in Thornwood, New York.
Correct.
It's designated on tax maps as 107.13-1-14. And the proposed application is for the legalization of an existing pergola in the rear yard of an existing single-family dwelling on a standard parcel of 0.93 acres in the R40 zone.
Correct.
20 feet required. Existing is 6.4. You're proposing 12, and you're asking for an 8-foot variance.
Correct.
Okay. When we were here last time, it was brought to our attention when we did the inspection that pergola was 6 feet off the pool. And it was determined at that time that you would find out if that could be reduced.
Correct.
Okay.
So in between last meeting and this meeting, I met with the manufacturers, I met with the client, presented the dilemma that 6.4 was impossible. So we met on site, spoke to the manufacturer. They can reduce the size of it. They can remove a section. We can get it to 12 feet without it compromising the actual purpose of the pergola. So they take off sections, move the columns back, and reduce the size.
Okay. So actually you've actually doubled
Correct.
the distance that you had before.
Correct.
Okay. Is Mr. Wu aware that in the future, that if you're going to do something, it needs a building permit?
He's well aware of it.
I hope
He's
so.
well- He's well aware of it at this
I hope
point.
so. Mr. DeChico?
Very expensive mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Mr.
Yeah.
DeChico?
Yeah, have any renderings of what the new proposed structure would look like?
It's actually, there's renderings of the actual structure on the construction documents that I submitted. I didn't bring them to present tonight, but they're on the
Yeah.
drawings. Not the new ones I gave you, but the full set that was previously there. The company is a manufactured company, so I don't do renderings, but they did a rendering of economic.
Of the new version since the last meeting?
Well, no, not the new version.
That's what I'm asking, I understand what we had
Yeah,
last.
no, they didn't, so basically it's it's a field modification they're making, so they didn't go back to the drawing board. The way that the structure's made, they have to, it's really like a field modification, so they have to cut it, bring it back. It's not like they bring a new structure there, so it's not even, they
Did
didn't,
you say it's gonna be a clean?
Oh, yeah, no.
Cut like 6 feet back the whole way across?
there's no other way to do this. So, because this thing is manufactured in a factory, they have to actually, there's fascias all over it, the way, and there's mechanisms, so they have to pull back. That's why it's a very expensive alteration. They have to peel back the motors, the fins, make the fascias again, and reface the whole thing.
So it's still gonna be a square or rectangular structure, just
100%.
6 feet further
Just
back?
6 feet further back.
12 feet.
Mr. Dorr?
No, 6 feet further back, 12 feet from the pool.
Okay, I got you. Further back from the pool, sorry.
Yeah, 6 feet further back from the pool.
No, I have no questions.
Mr. LaFatos?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there anyone here for or against this application? Would the board like to make a determination?
Mr. Chairman, based on the documentation and testimony last meeting, and then the changes of actually decreasing and increasing the distance away from the pool, but decreasing the variance, I make a motion we approve the new change.
Okay.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
You seconded, thank you. Second by Mr. LaFatos. Mr. DeChico?
Vote aye.
Aye. Chairman votes aye, but I want to thank you, Mr. Valani, for working with the board to resolve this particular issue.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you very much.
Next application is Robert Meyer, owner of the premises at 496 Old Chappaqua Road. Good evening.
Good evening.
Raise your right hand, sir. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So
And you are Robert Meyer?
I am Robert Meyer.
You are the owner of the premises at 496 Old Chappaqua Road in
That's me.
Briarcliff Manor.
And my wife.
And
Judy.
your wife,
Yes,
obviously. Matter of fact, she probably owns more than you do.
absolutely.
The designated on the tax map is 98.7-1-13, and the application was for a proposed detached carport on a standard legal parcel, 51,000 square feet in the R40 zone. And there were two requirements that you were looking at. One, side yard setback, 25 feet's required, proposing 11, you're asking for 14 feet. And the rear yard setback, 50 feet is required, proposing 30 feet, or a 20-foot variance. When we discussed at the last meeting, there were two things that we were asking you to do. One, take the carport, move it closer to the house. And the other item that we asked of you to do was to reduce the height of the carport.
Right.
You had it at 35 feet. You brought it down to 15. Okay. I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I have no questions on that. Mr. DeChico?
I'd like, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, in so doing, I actually asked my neighbor, Andrew Morrissey, who is the setback from the 25 feet. And my hope is, because really, you've been to the property and you understand where it is, we couldn't, when the architect did it, he, as you have it, I guess it's at 11 feet now, I think. And the other one, the old one was 8 feet setback. we would love to still do the 8 feet, knowing that he has no objection, because our, the distance between what we're talking about, the extra 4 feet, we're talking about like 80 yards from each other's property. So, although I hope my current proposal is achieved, I would still love to hopefully get a little more distance, knowing that there is no objection from him on the 25 feet.
I don't think so. I'll be honest with you. Because you have a lot line. You have to have a certain distance.
Right,
Theoretically, you have to be 25 feet. Originally, you were 5 feet,
right,
if I recall.
right. I don't
Now,
know.
you're proposing it as 11 feet, so you moved it over to 6 feet. And that difference is between that portico, if I recall, that little porch area
Yeah,
you had between the house and the,
right, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
your main concern was the carport.
right,
And what we try to do is work with you
right.
to be able to give you somewhat what you want. So it's a trade-off. But basically, your neighbor lives there for a certain number of time. He may move to Florida next month, you don't know. Somebody else moves in and says, oh, look at this, I hate this.
Yeah,
And
you're right, but they would never be able to see it,
And
but
you're
you're
not
100% right,
You don't need that.
yeah. So,
That's why we have, that's why we have this set up,
right,
all right? If you want, you can, yeah, if I recall, you had a lot of bamboo on the side there.
right, that's their bamboo.
Throw some more in the back and hope you see it.
They can't see it anyway,
Okay.
so,
I have no further questions. Mr. DeChico?
Just to clarify, the current plan shows the 11 feet. You mentioned 8 feet a few moments ago, but is that correct, or was the first
I,
plan, as the chairman
there was 3 plans. The second plan, the one that you had last, was 8 feet, which was too much for you, and you asked me to move it, which they did.
So just to, on that point, the chairman's indicated his current feelings on the 8 feet versus the 11 feet.
Yeah,
Some of us may have different feelings on the 8 feet versus 11 feet, but we can only vote on
the 8,
before us now.
the 11 feet.
But you would
I
have
got
to
it. Redo
decide-
it.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
do, but just decide that you're going to pull the 11 feet and submit the 8 feet.
I would do that if that was, knowing what you know, I actually might consider that, knowing that he has no objection. But that's why I brought it up.
If that's what you indeed want to do, is advertise for this current revision.
Yeah, I know, at 8 feet.
Which would mean you'd have to have the building department re-advertise to go back to the 8,
8 feet.
just so you know that. So you
Okay.
wouldn't be able to give a decision tonight.
Right. Well, I'll take the decision tonight, but then if I decided to change, I guess I would do that. But it doesn't sound like it would make a good idea.
Then you have to refile
Sounds like you would
your
have to
application
refile the whole
And start
thing.
all over again.
Yeah, okay, I think I'll stick with the 8 feet. I mean, 11
There's no
feet, the 11
guarantee that
feet.
you're going to get,
Yeah, okay.
you
I
have
got
a
it.
choice. You can either
No, I'll,
accept what it is, or you can take it, and if you want to throw the dice later,
right,
you may wind up with
with
two
nothing.
ones.
Right,
Say what it is.
Yeah, it's like, right, risk, or whatever.
Your
it is.
decision.
Something like to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure you knew the-
I got it.
And the other, clarify for the record, where on the notice here, it says rear yard setback is existing, not applicable. The structure you're looking to build is totally new, but your current house does sit 30 feet from the rear yard,
Of course,
correct?
yes,
And the carport that you're proposing to build will be in the same line
Of course.
as the current house. So
Correct.
there will be no structure built further back than
right,
already
exactly,
there.
yes,
Correct.
exactly. I mean, if you saw the property, obviously this property was there before all the houses were ever built on the lot, so none of these zones, these restrictions probably pertain back in 19-something.
And although you've changed the side yard setback and also reduced the height, which isn't necessarily a zoning issue, but
Right.
just for clarity of
Right.
purpose and the big picture, you did reduce the height.
I did, I
Uh,
did,
that the setback for the rear yard is still
gonna
the
be
same as
30
the last plan?
It is.
So where the current structure?
No, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, Mr. Dorr?
Just adding to what Mr. DeChico put, the new revised plan also, by picking up that 11 feet to pull it in, it decreased the distance between the covered carport to the house from 10 feet to 7 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which,
so it-
that's why I was hoping to get the,
I mean,
the
10
8
feet is
feet.
still not a small little section. I mean, it's a decent size. I mean,
It's hard for me to know because I'm not architecturally
yeah.
savvy. So, spatially, it seems tight to me, but, from you guys,
But
perspective, you would know.
Since it's continuous with your house and coming out, it's not like there's going to be a gap
Right.
in the roof structure.
Right,
And then from last meeting, you had a neighbor that was complaining about the height.
yeah.
Again, as Mr. Chico mentioned, you brought it down to a reasonable,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I would think everybody's happy with.
Yeah, and he can't honestly see it anyway. I mean, even though he objected to it, yeah.
All right. Mr. Lapazos?
Again, with respect to the accommodations that were made to minimize the variances that you were seeking, the fact that you addressed both of them in your latest submission, the satisfaction of the other members of the board, I have nothing else to inquire about. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Board want to make a decision on this application?
I mean, based on Mr. Chairman, based on the documentation we have currently and the new documentation and the reduction of the variance from last meeting, I move that we approve the revised variance.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. DeChico. Mr. Lapazos?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye.
Thank you, that's great news, thanks.
Next application. Next application, 2448 William Foster.
My name is Peter Scott, representing the applicant.
Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
William Foster?
Are you going to testify
Yes,
tonight?
he is.
He is? Okay. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay. You're William, gentleman sitting is William Foster. You're the owner of the premises at 170 Manhattan Avenue in Hawthorne, New York, correct?
Yes,
Designated on tax map in the town is 112.14-5-38, and the application is for a proposed 8-foot-high retaining wall on a 10,000 square foot lot in an R10 zone.
yes. If I may give a presentation to you, a brief one.
You'll do it in 1 second.
Yep.
I have to just do this last part. I know you're anxious. This is television.
I'm a star.
Maximum fence height, 4 feet is required. There's nothing at this point. You're proposing 8 foot, and you want a 4-foot variance.
That's correct. So the property, basically, I have some pictures of the site I was going to distribute to everyone, just to get a feeling of what we're doing here.
We can share.
So the property actually rises from the north side to the south side along the rear property. And we've staggered this wall in 1-foot increments. So the 8-foot portion of the property is a 13-foot section in this northeast corner. And then from then on, it's 8 feet, 7 feet, 6 feet, 5 feet accordingly. So it's not all 8 feet tall along its entire length. Just in the one corner, it's based upon the grading that's depicted on the plan before you. So it's a stepped wall. And the property which is being affected, our neighbor, these two lots in the corner, we introduced into the record a letter from Anthony Barbero, who basically has indicated there is no issue with this variance request at the corner of his property. And he's the owner which is most affected by this proposal. The property is in the rear yard. So from Manhattan Avenue, streetwise, you really can't see the wall if it was built, because the house is in the way, and the view shed from the street is blocked by both the house and the garage. So we're not really creating any impacts visually from Manhattan Avenue. In the other direction, looking in the westerly direction, we basically don't see the wall at all because, again, it's pushed up against a hillside. Now, to mitigate the extent of our variance, we didn't bring the wall up to the property line. We have an 8.5-foot buffer between our wall and the property line itself, which we plan to put vegetation in as a planting above the wall itself. The neighbors have fences on their properties already, which are depicted in the picture I gave you, and their fencing goes all along here and down the side, and so we don't need fencing because it's already been curtailed by the neighbor's fences itself.
Well, I'm looking at the the photograph here. There's a, when we were, what you're missing on the photograph here is on the left side of the property, there was a wooden fence, if I recall. Pretty bad shape.
Yes, that's not,
Who owns that fence?
that's a neighbor.
And the fence, the fence going across the back is owned by whom?
Neighbor.
Okay.
And also there's another little fence over here too, a shed. There's a shed on the property line and another fence, which you can see in the picture in the far right corner.
Right.
That's right here.
Have you, I'm not concerned too much about the left side of the property, okay? From the, I'll say from the center to the left. What has me a little concerned is an 8-foot wall on the right.
Right.
And what about the possibility of doing a 4-foot wall with a 4-foot wall behind it, if it's that?
Well, maybe I can have Mr. Foster to speak in regards to that. We looked at that, but basically, the reason for his wall is he can provide you that documentation.
New Year, everyone.
Same here.
Thank you for your time. So basically, to keep it simple, for me to gain the full capacity of my backyard, and I can get all the area that I have, an 8-foot wall would be suitable for me. This way I can have the potential to do a lot more and make it, you know, really, for lack of a better term, awesome. My house is 1,600 square feet. It's small. Got my parents out of the Bronx, bought the house with them. So I don't have much room to, you know, like have people over and stuff like that. So to have a really nice backyard would be something that I would really be interested in. I retired in 2023, so now I can really focus on, you know, working on the house, you know.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not concerned too much about a 4-foot or a 5-foot wall.
Yeah.
It's that one section in the back. If it was 5 feet and you can regrade it somewhat,
Right.
I think it would be better. You'd still have your full backyard, but you don't have, you have a liability, even though that it's your neighbor's fence, you're gonna have to put something up there. If somebody decides to, somebody moves out and somebody has some young kids, kid jumps off an 8-foot wall, he's gonna get hurt. So the possibility of either going to a 5-foot wall or or even a 6-foot wall and tapering it, because you can work at a 45-degree angle going up on the slope.
Yes.
And it also will take away the look of the stone wall. No matter what you do, whether you use field stone or brick or whatever, you're gonna see this. So you
Right.
want to also at the same time know it's there, but minimalize the exposure. I guess that's the word to use.
Right, no, I understand what you're saying, but if I bring the wall down, then I'm losing that southbound side. I'm
No, you're not.
using a lot of property.
You're moving, you're reducing the height.
If I could ask, at the point where the wall is 8 feet, how far off the property line is it? 'Cause I think it
It was
was,
17 feet off the corner and 8.5 feet off each corner.
right, so typically, if you go, when we have staggered walls, you go up 4 feet, you gotta go over 4 feet before you go up again 4 feet, and then over again 4 feet. So if you have the 8 feet, which I think we saw on the plans when we did the site visit, Mr. Chairman, in theory, that the wall, in theory, without further review, but could start exactly where it is now. And then but you're just going up 4, over 4, up 4, and then you're essentially at your property line. I believe that could work. Again, we'd have to look at it, but you wouldn't be losing any flat area, which is what you're trying to
Right.
get.
What if I did something, what if we did something different? What if I just
But
graded
also, but
this
if you
hill
did that,
down?
you also wouldn't need a variance, because it would be within code if you did the 4 feet and back and up the stack of 4 feet.
Well, we looked at staggering them, but basically, structurally, I'm a structural engineer as well as an architect. Basically, when you stagger them, I still have to put almost a full wall in front, you know, but we have to put a full wall behind it and one in front of it. I think maybe if we could reach a compromise, there is a way of, we could make this 6 feet wall in a corner, and if I could grade down to that, I could probably make that work. I think I could make 6 feet. I think we could go with 6-foot high wall in that corner. We are using the Versal wall, Versalock.
What is it?
I wish you guys could see the backyard in person.
We were.
You were?
We were there. We were.
Oh, okay.
We were there
I wish
on
I could see it
Saturday.
during the
We
summertime.
were
So
there.
I'm gonna just interrupt
Because-
for 1 second. You're allowed a 6 foot in your rear,
Yeah.
so you don't need a 4-foot variance for the rear wall.
Well,
It's only the
we,
sides.
Only the sides.
It's only the sides.
yeah, we proposed we wrote our application as a 6-foot wall to 2-foot variance, but we got revised by your secretary to 4-foot and a 4-foot. We are in a rear yard, and we're allowed 6 feet.
Yeah.
That's what we applied with, but they amended my application to be 4 and 4. So literally, it's really a
This is the
6-foot
front.
wall with a 2-foot.
Through the
The
front.
second front, though, because of the. what is
See,
this
my
called?
concern is,
I know, when we first.
So many-
you don't even need, if you went with that 6, I'm gonna stay with that one corner there.
Corner lot.
Yeah.
No, Tom, Mr. Chairman, let me interrupt. I
This
think
is
the
also a
issue
corner
was that there
lot.
was a paper, was this the house with the paper
Yes, there
street?
was. It's
Which
a
is
corner
why
lot.
it didn't.
It's got two fronts and a side and a back.
I had it surveyed.
So is that
Yes.
clear?
And I would put a fence.
What was
Yeah,
that?
what you're saying is, yes, there's a paper road here,
Yeah,
which is not developed, but that is part of a setback.
which is causing the difference in the
Yeah,
issue.
Yes, yeah.
One of the things, you said it's about 18 feet off that arc,
At a
corner?
corner, yes, right here. From here, we made it 18 feet back.
18 feet. So
I could grade it if I had
even if you go at a 30-degree angle,
2 to 1, right?
it's more than side.
Yep.
So if you went to a 6-foot wall,
Right.
all right, the foundation, the footings all stay exactly where they are, you would be able to accomplish what you want.
We could accept that, yes.
The other thing you can do with any excess material, if you extend that 6 feet more towards the left, which is, I'm looking at the drawing here.
Right?
I'm not a structural engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
So, moving it more to, you can take the excess material and use it for fill and balance off that hill.
Right, we
You
could.
can do that.
Yes,
You're not, your depth stays the same.
correct.
The depth stays the
Different
same.
grading on top.
Yep.
One thing is, to be clear, Bill just indicated to me that the fence is on his property, even though the owner built it. It's actually, he has a fence on his property.
I believe
Say
the
that-
fence is mine.
That corner goes on a diagonal up on the top, and your property goes behind the fence.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
we're
does.
going like this.
If the opposite, this side.
Well, I mean, I'm no engineer by any means, but I did have it surveyed, so if you go by the stakes, then that fence is on my property.
Right.
Yes, and
Which
then the one stake is behind, well, my neighbor has something obstructing it, you can't see it, but that fence is obvious.
I picked up on that.
Yeah,
There's
okay,
a
all right, I'm not gonna go, there.
We don't want to claim the fence.
There's an
Yeah,
oil
right.
tank there. But to the chairman's point, the integrity of those fences is more, in my mind, an issue, whether it's a 6-foot fence, an 8-foot fence. Yes, it's fenced, so safety, somebody's not coming in and falling off that wall accidentally onto your property.
Right,
But the way those fences are, especially in that corner, the wire link fence, the chain link fence, I mean, other than being rusted, it was still intact.
yeah,
But the other corner,
that's coming
you know,
down.
somebody can, I mean,
Yeah.
that needs to be enhanced. I mean,
That-
we already
that's-
see on the
that's
plans that
100% coming down.
that the shed is coming away.
The shed is coming off.
Taking the shed off.
Yeah, that's coming off. And I was gonna put up a fence eventually. I just,
The other thing you can
Looking
do
at time.
along that upper part of that wall, beyond the wall to the property line, you could put some low-hanging evergreens or something like
Or
that.
boxwoods.
Whatever.
Boxwoods are
Yeah.
great.
It's a deterrent if a child, even though you have the fence, okay? It's another deterrent. Kid's gonna think twice before
right.
Right.
going in there. So that's another positive thing to
Sure.
look at.
Well, I did speak with my neighbor, Toby. His name is Anthony Boyd. Toby. We both agreed that we were gonna put a fence in back there because he wanted to do it. And I said, I said, I'll go in half on you, so that will be taken care of. That I can assure you.
It could be a
Prove it,
condition
but-
of a resolution if
I
we
was
have
gonna
to.
say, I mean, I'm thinking more
Yeah,
of
but then
having
the
a,
timing of it, only because it may be again, financial hardship. I know it might be for me to do two projects at once. If we make it a condition, then that means that you can't put the wall up without putting the fence up.
True.
I don't know if you're ready to put that fence up that you discussed with your neighbor, but if you are, then your architect can make that recommendation to us and we might act on it. But if we put a condition on the approval, then you're obligated to do it, and you won't be legal until you complete all features that are pertinent to the approval.
I understand. Well, I think at this point in time, a couple things is we're willing to take a 6-foot fence. So we would be basically amending this to a 6-foot tall fence maximum at the corner. And then we'd taper it down at 1-foot increments as we have on the plan. In regards to the fence, well, currently he owns a fence on his property, and possibly I could resolve it with the building department when I go for the permit for the fence itself, just indicate a fence of some form, or a barrier.
Well, a chain link fence, because you have a chain link fence in the back, it's not an expensive fence.
Right.
So, and how far are you coming down? About 10, 15 feet on that fence?
Yes, basically what would happen is we would start the fence here and just run it along our property line. We'd probably do the whole length of the property itself. I don't really want to do a chain link fence on top of the wall. That's what we were hoping to put a planted buffer up there.
No, what I'm saying is, you have an existing fence.
Yes, we do.
That goes across the property.
That's
And
correct.
that is a chain link fence.
Yes, it is.
Not
Right.
What I remember.
Yeah.
You can duplicate that same fence and add to it on the left side of the property and the right side of the property. You come down to maybe 15, 20 feet. It doesn't
Right.
have to be a 6-foot fence, it could be a 4-foot fence,
Yes.
because all it is just.
Well, we are stepping everything away from the corner.
Yeah,
In actuality, the fence is 1 foot tall here and 1 foot tall here. It steps up in 1-foot increments to the high point in the corner. It would
Yeah.
now go to 6 feet tall in the corner.
yeah, so by bringing the fence down on either side, a new fence,
Yep.
block it off, then you'll have what you need.
Correct.
I have an issue, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address. I don't know if anybody has any.
Go ahead.
go ahead.
So, the talk about the fence has been a perimeter fence. So, but to get to your point, sir, about a planted buffer, my concern, if we're giving you a height variance on the fence,
Not the
is
fence.
some,
On the
on the wall, height variance on the wall.
Yes.
Is the practicality of when you use the backyard, kids running up and down and playing in the top tier area. We have a personal experience in the town with a neighbor of mine who has a staggered 4-foot wall. It's all within code. It's a flat on top, and it's nerve-wracking when you're back there with the kids, and that's only a 4-foot height wall
Right.
with a level area up there where they could run around, and you're always worried that they're gonna fall down. I would be really afraid for a 6-foot fence without some type of preventative measures to say that this is not a play area. This
Yes.
is not an area for kids and people to run around, throw a ball, walk, play, run, jump off of.
Okay.
So, I don't know what thoughts you have on that.
We-
Would it
a
matter,
quick-
would it
quick
I don't think
sidebar
it's dirty
here.
If I don't have kids,
Yeah.
I hang out with
Kids,
adults.
family members come
Yeah.
over, people come, the next person that moves in maybe has the same issue.
Well, I like it up here. I don't plan on
Yeah.
leaving anytime soon.
Well, the thing
so-
is,
So to
you can-
satisfy with
But
the
I
offense.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
so-
what you can do, we talked about putting shrubbery up there.
Right.
Shrubbery would be a preventive measure,
A boxwood would,
Yeah.
yes.
whatever you want to
It
use.
looks good too.
3 foot, 4 foot high.
We want you to be able to enjoy your backyard. And we saw your neighbor, I think, to the left, it looks like they did some work similar to what you're looking to do. They have a nice flat area, so we understand.
Yeah.
But for my purposes, I would feel more comfortable if we're able to condition some type of barrier up there to make sure that that's just like a landscape area, not a play area. So to your point.
We would propose
boxwoods.
boxwoods, which should be appropriate. It's dense. It basically is easy to grow. It lives anywhere, and basically, we can prune it, so it's decorative, and it would be a good barrier. We use it for barriers.
Your client would be comfortable with something along those lines?
I'd have to talk to him because I don't know what boxwood
Yeah.
is.
It's a bush. It's
It looks like a box.
a big, it's a very dense bush.
All I heard was maintenance. And, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Or a little bit could be a
not
fence, too.
concrete
It's a
like the
fence or
city.
that.
Well, you wouldn't have the
Fence or
issue of
boxwood.
maintenance if you didn't have the wall. So,
Yeah.
you know, the main concern is how badly do you want the wall? Or how serious are you for having the wall? And we always look at things like Mr. DeChico point, there's a liability issue,
Right.
all right? Your neighbor stubs his toe in the front of your house, the next thing you know, you got a letter coming from a lawyer. The same thing is true here.
Right.
There's a liability issue, and you're going to be the one who's going to be liable.
Right.
So what can you do to mitigate the amount of liability that's available and give you the privacy and whatever and the distances you need for your backyard? And that is reducing the fence to 6 feet and then putting in vegetation. Could be evergreens, I don't care what you put in,
Right,
but some
right.
sort of vegetation.
Planted buffer as
A
Yes.
planted
I'm
buffer.
100% willing to do that, whatever it takes. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We can put that
Yeah,
as a
myself.
condition.
I always learned a long time ago, you try to design a piece of equipment that's idiot-proof. And there's always an idiot who can prove that they can destroy it.
Very
No
good.
further questions,
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman.
There's no one here for or against this application, I would assume.
No.
Who wants to are we ready to make a determination on this application?
No, because I didn't put all the attachments on
Yeah, Nick, why do you do it? Could you add
Well, I didn't
on-
know if you guys have any questions.
No, we're good with everything that you
Oh, I didn't
two
want
have
to
said.
jump the gun if you guys had
No,
other questions.
Nothing
I mean,
additional,
you-
thank
You
you.
already addressed
All
it.
right, very good.
I mean, the
Understood.
fact that we're talking 6 foot instead of 8 foot,
Okay.
and we're addressing the fence and the buffer on the top. I mean, you're
Okay.
usually pretty good with the conditions.
All right, so I'll make the motion, thank you, Mr. Dorr. I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, then seeing that there's nobody here to speak on the application, that we approve application Z24-48 with the plans, based on the plans submitted and the oral modification of a maximum height, fence wall height of 6 feet with the 1 foot tapering on either side as described on the record tonight, with the condition that there will be a planted buffer along the tiered area above the wall to prevent it from general play or use by either residents or visitors.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Lepatos. Mr. Dorr?
I
All right. Chairman
Is
votes
there any
aye.
questions or?
No, we have somebody
No, we're all
else.
set.
So it's carried 4-0.
Thank you very much.
All right. Again, wait until you get the letter from the zoning board,
Okay.
and then add that to your application.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You didn't-
What is that? May require that.
All right, our last application for tonight, Lauren Santucci.
He don't look older than me.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman and
Put your-
board members.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
You are?
Vinnie Mastromarco from MBA Associates, the architects for the
And where are you
project.
located?
In Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow, okay. So, this is regarding Lauren Santucci, the owner of the premise is located at 1 Wall Avenue in Valhalla. Designated on a tax map as 117.11-4-60. The application is seeking approval to remove an existing deck, construct a new deck to an existing single-family dwelling. And you are looking for a side yard setback, 12 feet is required, 7.5 is existing, proposing 7.16, so a 4.8-foot variance, correct?
Correct.
All right.
It's a non-conforming lot, so that's why the variance is actually a little bit larger, because if it was a conforming lot, it would actually only be about 2.13 feet instead of the 4.
When we were out there on Saturday, looks like you already started on the deck.
So, yes, the owner retained a contractor thinking that he was going to file, and apparently he just started doing the work. Then I guess he got a stop work order, and that's when I was called, came to look at the deck. I was going to do drawings on it, but noticed the deck that he started building was not to code. So he's got to knock that one down, actually.
What was not the code about it?
It had 2x6 floor joists, the sonotubes were small, I don't want to bash the guy, but the LVL beam, the beams were not supported correctly. It was just,
The
it
other
was not good.
thing that I noticed when we were there, there was an opening between the house, looks like part of the wall of the house was removed.
I think he might have removed some of the old...
Just below the deck. You have the deck, come down, there's a platformed area, and that whole area behind it, it looked like that they opened it up.
That was, that section was always open. I don't know, can you see this?
Yeah, I could see it.
I think you're referring to this area?
Yeah,
Okay, so yes, this was always open. Imagine no deck here. This was, this is a former addition, and there are steel columns here with a steel beam, and this is an overhang. They just put in a little storage underneath this section of it, but this piece was always left open.
yeah, because I was left with the impression that you were putting a deck up and you were going to put a room underneath it. It looked like it.
We are putting that's going to be also a deck. That's the second tier, the lower
Okay.
portion, so there's a lower deck and an upper deck.
There's a section, to the chairman's point, where you were pointing that had a sloped roof on it.
That is not going to happen any longer. That's going to be removed, and the deck is going to continue to the existing door out from the living space.
And the main concern is that you have a walkway going from the deck in the back along from, like I see, picture on the right side of the house. And it's something that existed prior.
Correct.
All right. So you're not increasing the...
No, we're actually decreasing because the current deck, or the former deck that the former contractor removed, was actually about 6 feet more to the left side, if you will.
Mhm.
That's this dashed line here.
Right.
So this piece is being removed because this is their driveway into their garage. So it's about 6 feet by 20 feet here that's being removed.
Okay. I have no further questions. Mr. DeChico?
If we look at that picture on the right, the deck on the right side of the house was there previously.
Yes.
And so when you say you're reducing the deck size overall, but it's not really a reduction of the variance.
Of the variance side, correct, no.
Mr. Dorr?
And that section off of the upper deck will go to that door that's going to nowhere?
I'm sorry?
There's a door on that north side where the slanted roof is, you said it's being taken away?
That roof is being taken
Second
off.
door, but there's a door on that second floor that's going to nowhere, right, currently. The deck will go under that door?
That's where the deck is going to extend to that
All the way
door,
goes to that
all the way to that
staircase
door.
going To the front?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, currently, there's a door that you open it, you're
Yeah, he didn't know what he was doing. I don't know.
I mean, I looked up at it, it's like, all right, why is this door standing here?
Yeah, no, he was, I don't know what he was doing.
Mr.
Against
Lepatos?
that backdrop, I have nothing else to add, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You have any questions, Mr. Lepatos?
Oh, no, I said no, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Do we want to make a determination on this?
Doesn't look like anybody's here for it, right?
No,
So-
I
so
wouldn't
based-
worry about it.
Based on the testimony and the clarification of the oops that occurred prior, I move that application Z 2450 be approved as submitted.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, second by Mr. Lepatos. Mr. DeChico?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, carried 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, noting that is the last case on the agenda, I move to close the meeting tonight.
Second.
Second, all right. All in favor, say aye. All right, meeting's closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right.